Let's go, family. Happy Monday. It's your boy, Crazy Faith to God in the building. Getting ready to drop some quick value for you guys today. So, today's topic, let's dive deep into this. Hope everybody's having a blessed day. Today's topic is actually going to be, there's three voices that we can listen to, right? There's three voices that we can all listen to, right? It's the voice of God, number one. The second voice is your voice, right? And then the third voice is the enemy's voice, right? The devil's voice, right? And we're spiritual beings. So throughout the day, we're always going to be listening to voices, right? But it's up to us to distinguish what voices are we listening to, right? Are we listening to God's voice? Are we listening to the devil's voice? Or are we listening to our own voice, right? And we got to be mindful of which voices are which, right? And I'm going to break down to you guys a little bit of which voices is which and like how to be in tune with it and to know which voices are talking to you, right? So God's voice is always going to be a whisper, right? It's going to be a gentle whisper, right? It's going to be a gentle whisper, right? And then, Satan's voice is always going to be that silent voice, right? It's this silent voice, right? You could barely, it's not even a whisper, but it's just so silent that it's deadly, right? It's so silent that it's deadly. And we got to be aware of this, right? We got to be mindful of these silent voices, right? Because these silent voices, you could be hearing it unaware. Like you could hear his voice unaware. Like you won't be aware of it, right? It'll just be so silent that you'd be like, what the, and then it will cause some type of discomfort, right? You will feel like a agony, discomfort, right? When you're listening to his voice, and you will be separated from God. You will start to draw away from God, and that's how you know you're not listening to the right voice. And your voice is just, your understanding, your perception on things. And what I like to do is once like I'm listening to myself, I take it to God and make sure, he's agreeing with it, and we have a solid foundation to move in any direction moving forward, or any direction that is needed, right? And I bring this to you because, we are spiritual beings, right? We are spiritual beings, and throughout the day, we're listening to a bunch of voices, right? We are listening to a bunch of voices, right? We're spiritual beings, and we listen to a bunch of voices. So we got to be in tune. Like, if we're not in tune, then we risk listening to the wrong voice, right? If we're not in tune, we risk listening to the wrong voice and getting hurt. How many of us have listened to the wrong voice and got hurt, right? Who've listened to the wrong voice and have gotten hurt? Me, right? I was once that person, right? So we got to be super mindful and super grateful that we got the awareness of which voice to actually listen to, and to determine which voice is talking to us, right? I remember when I didn't have the discernment and to understand which voices is which, and I was getting frustrated, right? I was getting so frustrated, right? And throughout the time of me, trials and tribulations, going through the ups and downs, I began to just be quiet and listen, like what voices is speaking to me, right? Because God gave us the spirit of discernment, so we won't be led astray. But it's up to us to activate that, right? It's up to us to activate that, so that way we don't get hurt, right? So that way we don't get hurt, and that way we could really move forward to our dreams, goals, and aspirations. Because think about it, if we're on a journey, right? If we're in the wilderness on the way to the promised land, right? And Satan is trying to deceive us, trying to trick us, of course, right? We got to be able to discern, because if we don't, then we risk not getting to the promise, right? So this is real big gems right here, right? If you're able to tap in with God and know what he wants to do, then you will get to the promise. But if you don't know, and you're not spiritually aligned with your spiritual side of success, right? And you're not understanding which voices is which, it's going to be very hard for you to get to the promise and see success, right? So, that's why I always take the time out, journal, right? Journal my thoughts. I always take the time out to understand what's going on in my mind, right? Because our mind is where we serve God, and that's where the devil tries to, tries to take us over, right? The battle is won or lost in your mind, right? The battle is lost or won in your mind, right? The battle is either lost or won in your mind. We all have a spiritual warfare that we have to get through, right? We have to get through this, because if we don't, then we risk everything. We risk everything. We got to be able to get through this, right? And I know some of you guys are maybe listening to the wrong voice, right? I know some of you guys are listening to the wrong voice, right? And it's very challenging, right? It's very challenging, but as you walk, as you get stronger, right? You begin to discern, and you begin to just put the devil under your feet, right? You begin to learn, you begin to put the devil under your feet, right? And we gotta be able to do that. We gotta be able to not be scared and actually put him under your feet. Because when we don't put him under our feet, what happens? Chaos, right? So much chaos, and we risk everything. We risk, the good vibrations, everything that we worked hard for. We risk all of that. Why? Because we didn't put the devil under our feet, right? And once you put the devil under your feet, you begin to live in freedom. You begin to live in joy, freedom, abundance, right? You begin to step out into the unknown, right? It's so much freedom. But the moment you don't do that, it's going to be super hard, right? It's going to be super hard for you to actually win any situation, circumstances, because he's out to kill, steal, and destroy, right? He's out to kill, steal, and destroy. So that's why it's very important to understand what voices are you listening to, right? What voices are you really listening to? Because those voices that you're listening to is either going to bring you success or take you away from success. Those voices you're listening to is either going to bring you to the promise or take you away from the promise, right? And if we're not aligned, we risk making the wrong decision, right? We risk making the wrong decision. And that was me too, right? That was me too. And I always want to be aligned with God. So why not take the time out and understand, oh, okay, I got to listen to God. I got to be aligned with what he's saying rather than what everybody else is saying and what the enemy is saying, right? Because God knows the way to the promise. God knows your gifts, your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. He knows all of that. So if he knows all of that, why not listen to him, right? Why not listen to him and actually get to where you're going, right? But if you're not aligned with it, it's going to be very hard. And I encourage you guys to get aligned with that too as well. So I want to leave you with this, right? I want to leave you with this, right? If you're not going to take the time out and to discern what spirit is talking to you, either it's your spirit, God's spirit, or Satan's spirit, right? If you don't take the time out to understand who's talking to you, it's going to be very hard for you to get success and to get to the promised land and to know where you're going. Because there's going to always be voices when you have to make decisions in any circumstances, right? And you got to be able to discern so you can make the right move. Because if you're not aligned, you're gonna make the wrong move and you could regret that, and that could cost you everything. All right? I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Take a few minutes now and pray with you guys. God, I ask that you strengthen them, their mindsets, the wisdom that you have given us, that's already within us, to be able to discern the voices, right, on a day-to-day basis. Help us discern the voices that we're listening to, right? Help us to transform into the person that you need us to be, and to be able to know what voices that are talking to us, so that way we can transform. Because we can transform with God. We can't transform with other people. Only the Spirit of God can transform us. So help us to discern what voices is talking to us, and to be able to trust God's voice and his whispers to get us to where we got to go. So with that being said, it's your boy, Crazy Faith of God, in the building. On the way out, I'm gone. Let's go. Hope everybody have a blessed and amazing Monday. With that being said, nothing but love. Let's go.